Hello and welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. Police in Kano State have confirmed the death of 15 persons in the bomb blast that rocked the GSM market in the city on Wednesday. Eyewitnesses say 2 female suicide bombers were responsible for the attack. Here's a report on the incident. It was total confusion and chaos in the immediate aftermath of the twin explosions. Dead bodies and body parts strewn all over the place, and the bombers struck at a time when the market was at its busiest. One attacker reportedly blew herself up at the entrance of the market, and a second one detonated an explosive around these stores inside the market, killing and injuring several people. An angry mob later gathered the remains of the attackers and burnt them.
What we know from eyewitness account is that a Sharon vehicle came with 6 women. All of them dressed in the cap. 2 of them were dropped here, and the other 4 left with the Sharon. The first woman came here and planted this explosive, while the other woman also planted outside. All of them, because they are suicide bombers, died in the adventure.
Hospitals around the market are overwhelmed with the dead and the injured. The police has cordoned off the market, saying it is investigating the incident. The incident occurred less than 24 hours after a similar explosion in a crowded park in Yola, the Adamawa state capital, in northeast Nigeria, left at least 34 people dead and 80 injured. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attacks, but all fingers point to the deadly Islamist sect Boko Haram, which has carried out several attacks in the parts of the north of Nigeria. In the wake of both attacks, President Muhammadu Buhari has asked Nigerians not to despair, assuring that his government would soon defeat the Boko Haram insurgents. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has condemned the bomb attack in the Nigerian city of Yola, which left dozens dead and many more injured. The Secretary General said there is no vindication for the attack or loss of life suffered by civilians. Ban Ki-moon also reiterated the UN's support to President Muhammadu Buhari's government in its fight against terrorism. He extended his condolences to the affected families of the victim and to the Nigerian government. Nigerian Army troops of 101 Task Force Battalion 7 Division Garrison arrested yet another wanted Boko Haram terrorist leader. The spokesperson for the Army, Sani Usman, has confirmed the suspect has been identified as Abubakar Sadiq and works as a guard to Muhammad Dakash. He was arrested along Lagos Street, Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. Usman said a closer look at the suspect showed he was number 28 among suspected Boko Haram terrorists declared wanted by the Nigerian Army last month. In a related development, the Nigerian Police Borno State Command arrested yet another suspected Boko Haram kingpin, Mohammed Usman, at Abuja, Talakwa ward of Maiduguri Metropolis. The statement said the suspect also marked the photograph of suspect number 40 on the poster containing the photographs of the 100 wanted suspected Boko Haram terrorists. The Nigerian Governors Forum has announced plans to reduce the salaries of political office holders as a means of reducing the huge overhead costs of state governments in the face of declining fiscal revenue. Chairman of the forum, Abdulaziz Yari, announced the decision on Thursday after a 4-hour meeting at the presidential villa. The forum also said that it has made plans to hold a roundtable meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari to find a solution to the economic situation confronting the country. The immediate past Permanent Secretary General in the Ministry of Culture, Tourism and National Orientation, Nkechi Ejele, is currently being interrogated by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Ejele is being quizzed for her role in the alleged misapplication of funds meant for the Subsidy, Reinvestment and Empowerment Program, SHOPI, appropriated to the ministry in 2013 and 2014. Ejele was deployed from the office of the Head of Civil Service of Federation to the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and National Orientation on March 6, 2013. She remained in that ministry until she was removed by President Muhammadu Buhari on November 10, 2015. Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has accused federal government-owned media organizations of choosing to play a second fiddle in the country's media landscape. He accused public broadcasters such as the NTA, FRCN, and NAN of throwing professionalism to the wind while also showing total disregard for editorial independence. The minister was speaking at his first meeting with heads of parastatals under the ministry. According to him, the public broadcasters mortgaged their credibility on the altar of political correctness even when they were highly trained. He added that his time in office will provide leadership for the federal government-owned media organizations in a manner that will make them to become the first source of information and effectively function as a vehicle for the change mantra of the Buhari administration. President Muhammadu Buhari has sent a supplementary budget of 456 billion naira to the National Assembly for appropriation. This was disclosed by the Senate President Bukola Saraki as he read out President Buhari's letter on the floor of the Senate. A partial breakdown of the budget shows that 2 billion naira was for feeding of students of unity schools, while 413 billion naira was for settlement of subsidy claims and 39 billion naira is for the operation of the Lafayette Dole, which is the anti-insurgency campaign in the Northeast. Buhari has also asked the Senate to increase the initial 882.1 billion naira meant for borrowing in the 2015 budget to 2.103 trillion naira.
2015 budget, which had a projected fiscal deficit of 1.041 trillion or 1.09% of GDP, with the deficit largely financed by domestic borrowing of 502.1 billion and foreign borrowing of 380 billion, making a total borrowing amounting to 882.12 billion, calls for additional borrowing. The expected deficit arising from the above is projected at 2.103 trillion or 2.19% of GDP, to be financed by additional borrowing of 1.601 trillion through the Debt Management Office. Accordingly, I deem it necessary to formally request the concurrence of the National Assembly to please consider and approve: 1, an upward review of the fiscal deficit from 1.09% of GDP to 2.19% of GDP. 2, an upward revision of the new borrowing from 882.1 billion to 2.103 trillion. 3, a new funding requirement to address security challenges and other important obligations in the sum of 465.64 billion.
The former National Security Advisor of Nigeria has spoken out on the allegations leveled against him by the federal government over allegedly awarding fictitious contracts used to purchase firearms during his time in office. The federal government on Tuesday ordered the immediate arrest of Dasuki Sambo and several others after an investigative committee on arms procurement indicted them. Dasuki, however, denied being invited to any committee to defend himself and denies any wrongdoing. President Buhari had received the interim report of the investigative committee on arms procurement. We'll go on a short break now. When we come back, we'll look at more news stories. Please don't go away.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on TV360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
Welcome back. You're watching TV360 News now. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has denied allegations that its management approved 2.7 billion naira as severance package for its top management members. At a media briefing in Abuja, Chairman of the Commission, Sam Amadi, and his commissioners said the reports were untrue and aimed at tarnishing the image of the organization.
The facts regarding the severance package for the next commissioners are as follows, and it's very straightforward. Throughout the almost 5 years of our tenure, we've not made any approvals in our remuneration that is not as provided for by law or based on precedent that we met in the commission. 2, as regards the severance package to staff and commissioners of NEC, we are only implementing payment structures that we inherited or as now approved by law. The one, as you know, as we state further, the 100% gross emolument for staff and commissioners was as provided in the staff handbook, and now in line with what the Pension Reform Act has provided under Schedule 5 to Section 4, Sub 4 of the Pension Reform Act. So before we came, the severance payment for staff, for employees of NEC, was 100% minimum. And as we show, what the severance that NEC commissioners have approved as of today is still that 100% gross emolument. 3, it is the same payment structure that were used by the federal government to pay the commissioners before us, the same payment structure we inherited and is now being implemented. That is 100% of gross emolument. And this is legal, 100% legal, and 100% lawful. Again, it is in compliance with the Pension Act. Our scheme is in compliance with the Pension Act. Furthermore, it is in agreement with practice of similar regulatory agencies internationally and locally, like the CBN and the NCC. NEC commissioners do not receive any payment under any heading that is not payment that staff also receive. Our severance is the same as that of the staff, 100% of gross, as provided by both the handbook and the Pension Reform Act.
President Muhammad Buhari has ordered the immediate retirement of Honorable Justice Lambo Akombi of the head Federal High Court in Port Harcourt after he was accused of misconduct. Acting Director Information of the National Judiciary Council, Sojoye, confirmed his compulsory retirement in a statement. The NJC had recommended the retirement of the judge after Shell Petroleum leveled several allegations against him. In a suit sent to the NJC, Shell accused Akombi of unilaterally appointing Emeka Nkwo, who was not proposed by any of the parties, as referee or valuer in a suit. He was also accused of hearing and concluding a case without dealing with a notice of preliminary objection on the jurisdiction of his court. As part of measures aimed at ensuring a hitch-free and credible election in the forthcoming Kogi governorship poll, the Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, has ordered a partial restriction of vehicular movement within the boundaries of Kogi State, with effect from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, 21st of November. A statement issued by the police force on Thursday said the decision was taken considering the geolocation of Kogi State, which shares boundaries with 10 different states. IGP Arase also ordered the deployment of key police officers to ensure the elections go as planned. Among them is Deputy Inspector General of Police Sotonye Leroy Wakama, who is in charge of the Department of Operations in Abuja. He's expected to supervise security arrangements in the area, and he will be assisted by 3 commissioners of police and 3 assistant commissioners of police during that election. Oil prices rose slightly on Thursday, with some investors keen to buy at what they perceive to be bargain levels, but persistent gluts of crude and refined fuel depots kept gains slight. Brent crude futures were up 23 cents at $44.37 a barrel. The international benchmark Brent is still down more than 10% this month and 22% this year, having slumped from as high as $115 in 2014. However, most analysts expect prices to remain low for the rest of the year and into 2016 as production continues to outpace demand. The suspected ringleader of the Paris attack, Abdul Hamid Aboud, has been identified as one of those killed in a raid in Saint Denis, the Paris prosecutors have confirmed. His body was found riddled with bullets and shrapnel in the building in northeastern Paris on Wednesday. At least 129 people were killed after multiple attacks on bars, restaurants, a concert hall and a stadium in Paris on Friday by the Islamic State militants. He was high on French and Belgian wanted lists and yet managed to travel from Syria to the heart of Paris without even leaving a trail. The Belgian national, who is 27, was identified through his fingerprints. Meanwhile, lawmakers in France's National Assembly on Thursday approved a plan by French President François Hollande to extend by 3 months the state of emergency declared the night of the Paris attacks. French Prime Minister Manuel Valls warned that France could face chemical or biological attacks from terror groups. Moving on to sports news now, Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger has called for thorough testing of football players for performance-enhancing drugs before matches. European Football Governing Body UEFA have previously dispelled reports that there are drug cheats in football. However, Arsene Wenger, whose side suffered a defeat against his team that had a player that later tested positive for banned drug samples in the Champions League this season, has urged the authorities to ensure that drug tests for players become a routine event. Wenger's Arsenal side are joined top of the Premier League with Manchester City. After 12 games, they take on Midland side West Brom at the Hawthorns on Saturday. We've come to the end of news now. We thank you very much for joining us. I am Thelma Okoro.